Hey there, once again, welcome to part 4 of our guide to Elite Dangerous, and in this play guide we'll be taking a long trip into the galaxy itself on a long trading run. On our previous guide we saw some internal trading runs, some local runs, and in this one we will move on to space trucking. So in our previous guide we picked up some coltan, dropped that off at Locale, picked up some palladium, and we've just dropped that off at Altair, you can see, so that gives us some money in the bank. You can see we are now up to 1 million credits, 1.29 credits there, almost 1.3, and that is just above our rebuy costs. You can see on the left hand panel, and if we should explode and die in this game, then we'll have to buy back our ship and its contents. So the insurance cost is only just below what we have in at the moment, so I like to have a little more cash than that, but you can see we only have the Altair skin left, and the Altair skin is going to be worth some money, so we're going to use that because it appears in yellow. It is actually a rare item, and we're going to find out all about rares in this guide. Not so much the combat, but if we take a look at the internals of our ship, we can see we have some thrusters there. We actually have the B5 thrusters at the moment, and by checking out those thrusters in this outfitting department, we can see, well, we can buy A4s, which aren't that great. We can buy C5s and D5s, which are lower again. The E's are the lowest, the D's are lightweight, the C's are actually pretty heavy but good quality, the B's are heavier still but even better quality, and the A's are lighter and the best quality. And you can see the power draw is slightly less on our new chosen model, the C5s, and the tonnage is slightly less as well, mass tons, which means we can fly further. You can see an increase in our light year range all the way up to 27 unladen, and you can see if we trade those thrusters in, we'll even get some cash back, which puts us up to 2.4 million credits, which is fantastic. That's the rebuy cost double, so if we get blown up we can afford it. Let's take a look at the frame shift drive as well. We actually have a type 5 and we have type 4s in at the moment, so we can't really use those. But you can see if we did try to sell that, that would be a great income, and it even says on the bottom, if you sell this, well, unfortunately you will lose half your jump range. Yes, we can see that clearly in red. We will lose that jump range, so let's not bother with that feature. And we have enough cash now to buy a few raw materials. All we need to do is, well, we can check out those things. I think adding actually another cargo bay, seeing as we are travelling and we are going long distance space trucking, adding a cargo bay would be wise at this stage and having the maximum possible. And checking out those repairs, we are still virtually full ship integrity and we don't need repairs either, so let's get ourselves underway, shall we? Let's refuel for this immense journey all the way up to the top. And our first port of call along what I call the rares run, the rares trade route, is quite near. In fact, it is the very next virtually system along, and that is Epsilon Indy. And Epsilon Indy, may have seen that station already. That carries some rares as well, and so we'll have to go over there and scoop those up.
Landing gear retracted.
Orbital is one of those allied terminals that I've had to build up allied status with through blood, sweat and tears in the commodity market, fetching and carrying for this station. We only became allied after dropping off the cartographics data in the exploration guide. We're making our way in pretty gingerly at the moment, and each station will have to be approached in a different way. You can see the advertising boards advertising future logos pretty convincingly, and the toast rack there, well, let's squeeze in between that with a great sound effect. Find our cage, and there may be more than one highlighted depending on the ships in the area, and of course if there are more than one ship there will be more than one cage highlighted, and if we do overshoot we can use our boosters as well as the forward and reverse boost keys. So in this case my booster keys are actually the comma and the dot keys, as in the power it is set to my plus and minus key. Let's check out our cargo. We have the 22 Altarian skin, and if we check out lower down in legal drugs we find indie bourbon, only 2 available, and I think there's a maximum of 7 in this particular starport. Checking out the bulletin board we find those combat missions are waiting for us. We can take down 4 pirates in the area. If we fly to those 2 systems, and any 4 pirates will give us that cash. And look at that, 2 slaves wanted for easy money. Well, if you were watching the previous part of this guide, slaves are no problem as long as you boost into stations and avoid the law. Let's check out our stats, and you see 2 slaves appears. It gives us 6 days, over 6 days and a number of hours to collect those slaves, which is actually 6 days in real time, so you can leave your computer alone and return and still collect those in time. Of course, the length of time we have to complete any mission depends on how long the notice has been on the board in the first place, and I have known missions with barely hours remaining, having nobody pick those up. Before we set off on our long journey, let's just make sure we've no fines, no bounties, nothing that we need to pay in the entirety of the Federation, and it looks like that we are clear. We don't need to pay in any trade dividends either, and that's basically, if you have a squad then you will gain trade dividends from what's known as a wing in this game. You can join a wing, a squadron of ships, and you will share the profits between you, known as trade dividends. But wings are not covered in this play guide, but what is indie bourbon. But we have the 2 that we've collected from Mansfield Orbiter. Those 2 have not been replenished, and at certain times of the day those bulletin boards will be restocked and replenished. I'm not quite sure what times those are. Well, that was at midnight in the old game, maybe it still is, but you can hang around and save your game, reload the next day, and you'll find completely new adverts on the same bulletin board. We can actually internalize ourselves. Let's check out what they have on offer. And these great multi-cannons, we can swap those for ordinary cannons, and they will pack the same punch but in a single velocity missile. And the railguns are like sniper guns in this game. You can fire those for a greater distance. They only take power, and those are basically electricity volts. And the missile racks, well, if you have defences against the missile racks, such as the ECM, and of course a point defense turret, which we have already, then those racks are pretty much useless. But check out those prices. For an F rated 1 grade cannon it's pretty expensive, and you'll notice that the power draw is different, and you will notice also the damage. The better grade E class is of course giving us greater damage, and the lower rated F class is giving us less damage per round, as you would expect, but the F class is so much more expensive. And each station will of course offer a variety of prices for their outfitting equipment, so it's best to shop around and find the best prices. For now, it's time to move on to Geras, which is our 3rd stop on our trade route. From there we'll pick up some more rares, and let's type that into the Navicom. Geras, or Geras perhaps, of course these can be pronounced any way you choose, is quite some distance away. Luckily we have a huge frameshift drive, in fact the best that the Asp can offer, so after all that exploration we had the money to buy that, so that should pay dividends in fast flight and quick transformation of goods into cash. So let's take off along that long route, and of course let's take advantage of the speeding up footage process to get us there even quicker. Arrive at our destination, we find a very compact white dwarf there waiting for us, trying to drag us in, so we'll have to find our docking port at Sadie Carnot Dock at this place, and that is not the place to go, even though that's probably the nearest port. The port that we want for the rare items is a place called Your Chicken Port. And of course Your Chicken is a long way away, and it will take some time to get us there. As soon as we line up we'll see that it is around 1 million light seconds away, and that will take some days to get there. Luckily that day counter will reduce as we increase our speed. That day counter is reading from our current speed, and as we increase the speed the days go down. We can increase our speed up and beyond 1,000 times the speed of light in this game, which is incredible, as we scan our neighbours there, making sure they are not going to attack us. But certainly 1,000 light seconds per second really wipes the time and the floor with these things, so even the furthest station can be got to, and I'm particularly looking at you Alpha Centauri. That really is the worst slog ever imaginable. In this case we don't need any directions, we are heading constantly to Your Chicken Port. Your Chicken is really worth it sometimes, because I have known 30 rares to be waiting there, up to 30, and if we scoop those up plus the 20 it means we have 50 rares to take on to the next system, and we'll find a system at the end of the rares run to dump all those for the maximum profit. It doesn't matter how many rare items we collect from how many stations, as long as we have a cargo hold full of those, and in this case we can carry around 80 tons, so let's make sure that that cargo hold is full. And of course if we can find 30 in this particular place, then that will be worth it. But you never can tell. Sometimes I've arrived at this particular station and picked up 2 or 3, and again sometimes these long journeys can be worth it when we get there, because sometimes we've never been so glad that they are over. Unless they were rares runs, I guess they wouldn't really be worth it. But rares, no matter what they are usually handmade commodities or hand-grown items and hand-built items, rare to that one system. And sometimes they can be narcotics and alcoholic beverages and meditation beads and all kinds of things, and fish and consumables, and well, sometimes most of those are some kind of drug or narcotic perhaps, but we've already picked up the skin, which is animal leathers from Altair, so these aren't always narcotics. You never can tell which station has those in, and I had to look at those on the internet find out the ones which were nearest, but there are maps available on the internet for those who want to delve further into the rares routes, and rares routes are certainly available. So we are slowly gaining progress on our station, And don't worry, I'm not going to put you through any more of this slog, but just to say, this is the game, and this is part of the game, travelling huge distances and hoping at the end of all this it's worth it. You can see the planetoid below your chicken colony is rather volcanic, and you can see the volcanic activity on the surface, and different planetoids will certainly be high in activity, and you might see cloud formations and different kinds of snowstorms and things like that building up. And so let's just speed up into the station, and yes, again it's one of those cuboid stations.
Landing gear deployed.
After that long journey, we have a little wear and tear cost, and so we'll have to repair that. You can see the ship integrity has dropped, so we'll have to pay 58,000 credits, 58,191 credits to be exact, and that is money lost, unfortunately, because we'll never gain that back. But let's hope this long trip is worth it. We've now repaired our ship all the way up there. Let's check out that commodities market, and let's see what they have in there. And they have 12. Well, not a complete write-off, not a complete loss, but 12 compared to the 30 we could have won. And we have now found home for 36 tons out of the 80 total. While we're here, let's check out that bulletin board. And frustrated employees seek incredibly expensive qualities of life, and trying to get those all the way to Geras station. Geras, however you pronounce that, is difficult. So let's try another pronunciation. This is Fugin, and Fugin is virtually the next system along, and that has some more errors. So again, let's put this thing into high gear, let's set off, let's get there.
Landing gear retracted.
Fugin is on the other side of that volcanic rock, and so we'll have to use the friendship drive, or rather the super cruise, to fly around this locally. If we press the normal M key, that will appear with a warning, so we have to press the N key, and that will drift us into super cruise. And now we can launch, find our way, hopefully. If we look at the target next to the radar, we will find where we need to go, and when that thing appears, ping, there it goes, it will change colour, and that means we can instigate the normal M key and leap into hyperspace. Reaching spaceport, I think is the only spaceport in this entire system. So again, if we fly in from the planet side, it's still not always easy to find the entrance. If you can see, I'm overshooting that thing, and with this craft I can actually look below. It's actually cut off the bottom of the screen, but you can actually see under the main panel. You can see at the moment, you can look below your feet, and you can actually judge the entrance to the spaceport by looking below the craft. You can see it just appearing there. The viewing deck of this craft is virtually paved in glass, so you can virtually see all the way around it. Let's line that thing up at Futon, and let's see if we can make another perfect landing.
Landing gear deployed.
obtained a warning for approaching too low over another cargo bay, and unfortunately that may have incurred a fine, so we'll have to make sure we pay that off before we leave. Let's check out that bulletin board. No help required there. And in the commodities market we find Fusion tea, and we find a few of those. Not an amazing haul, 4, and that puts us up there. We now have 40 out of the 80, so we now have half the bay full of those rares. And so while we are here, we can check out those ships flying around. Lots of Type 6s, because Type 6s are long haul craft carrying lots of bulk cargo deep into space. And this really is deep into space, really, unless you are on the rares run like I am. And so let's dilly dally, let's see if there are any more. And no, there are no more in the commodities market. Sometimes you can find extra ones appearing if you loiter, and so let's refuel. We don't really need to do that, and again, the less fuel we have, the lighter the ship, and so the less fuel it will take to power that ship, and so the extra lightness increases our speed and our maneuverability. But we have chosen to fill those tanks up because in this area there are a lot of stars which are unmineable. Not that we have the fuel scoop, but we don't want to get lost. This is quite deep space, but it isn't deep space that we've been to already, of course. And so let's check out our next destination. It's a number of systems across. It's Wolf 1301. That's easy to remember. Let's set off there for the last one on this leg, and we will then head for the deepest one in space on this rare's route before we turn around and start heading for home. And on the back straight at the end of that, we'll find the departure terminal to dump all our cargo. Saunders Dive is just over 6 minutes travel away, and that has just dropped to 3 minutes. And again, if we take away that navigation point, sometimes the ship will speed up just a little bit quicker, and then we can reselect Saunders Dive, and then we can speed off into the distance. As soon as those thrusters kick in, we can see we are travelling 17 times the speed of light now, 18, and we are actually slowing down at the 7-second point again, and this is actually when we are the most vulnerable. So you have to have keen eyes watching for those ships approaching from the rear, and sometimes we can just get interdicted. Interdiction, it's best to transfer all that power to the weapons and the shields on a system in this game, and 2 pips to the system and 4 to the weapons. And you can see I'm transferring my weaponry. My heads-up display has changed to the kill warrant scanner. By slowing down so that marker is in the blue zone, we can then line up the enemy and trigger the kill warrant scanner. You can see scanning, and it will show it on the heads-up display and on the side, and when that greys out, that means it's finished scanning. The kill warrant scanner will then give us any extra cash that enemy who has interdicted us has in other systems. If you don't use the kill warrant scanner, you might not find any money. In the left hand panel, this Python is actually clean, so if we took out this Python, we wouldn't get a single credit for it unless we had that kill warrant scanner. And of course a Python is a worthy foe, and it will take some power to knock that thing out. At the distance we can use our beam lasers, and you'll notice our power really drains, and of course as the beam lasers come into effect, they also affect the temperature. But again, that really doesn't matter unless you have limited upgrades. With the best upgrades, that really doesn't affect the temperature, but again, the power usage will really get drained from those. And of course, the rest of it in close range, we can then hold down the other fire button, the mouse button, and we can fire off the multi-cannons, which we have 4. And see those blasting away. Sometimes they will recharge and stop. So if you want to turn in this game, counterintuitively you have to slow down. You might be able to see speed up and slows down as soon as the enemy is trying to turn away from us. It's time to slow down, turn around, and then speed up again after that thing. Sometimes it will speed off into the distance to recover some of its shield power. When all the shields are depleted, the red arc will go red on our or the enemy ship, and you can see it rebuilding its cells one by one. Those shield cells will take a while. In the meantime, its hull integrity is down to 0%.
Target destroyed.
When that happens, we can stop firing and claim that bounty. On the radar, we have a number of grey or white pods, and they denote, in this case, canisters. Most of those contain bio-waste, but a few of those contain HE suits, and it is possible to scoop those up and claim those, but unfortunately if you do that then you'll become wanted, because that is illegal cargo, because that's not been cleared by the Federation or the International Trade computer, and that will appear as illegal goods on our computer. And you can see we can fly around there, and if we use our cargo scoop, every ship in the game comes with a cargo scoop, we can scoop those up. But I don't know if you noticed, in the very first guide we actually switched off our scoop hatch, our cargo hatch, in the instrument panel, so that we could switch off that and gain that power, and that means that we can't scoop by pressing the C key. So we'll show scooping cargo on a later play guide, and I don't really want to become wanted with half a ship full of rares on board, having just defeated a Python. That Python obviously attacked because it scanned our vessel and found those rares. A Python is a ship much heavily equipped, and it is a higher rank than our Asp at the moment, and the Python is one rank higher, and the Anaconda is probably the biggest ship in the game, one rank higher than that. So the Asp is not to be messed with, the one that we have at the moment, but as soon as we can afford it, we'll be upgrading to that Python ourselves, and that will give us even greater firepower, not the class 2 weaponry that we have at the moment. That will go to class 3, and we can, oh look at that, we are actually interdicted because of our rares. We are interdicted before we even get there. If we press our 0 thrust key, in this case it's my 0 key on the keypad, that will submit to the interdiction, and you can see by pressing F10 to cycle our next hostile ship, slow that thing down so that it's in the blue zone, angle that thing so we can see it, flick out our kill warrant scanner and scan that thing so we get all that cash. Remember, we wouldn't have got a penny from that Python if we hadn't have used that, and that gave us all that cash, so it's well worth it. 180,000 credits. Let's see how much we get from this Viper. The Viper is a very much smaller ship than ours, and it will take much longer to knock out, but the class 2 Viper and the class 2 Asp is, well, sometimes it can be an even match. So we use a function called chaff, which means you can see my weaponry sights are floating around, and enemies getting in our way there. If we fire on another enemy, we will become wanted because the target computer hasn't tracked that as an enemy, and anything which does not register as an enemy makes sure that we are wanted instead. So 19875, that's not too bad. And check out all these other attackers taking that guy out. Let's just scan these in case any of those guys are wanted. That guy appears clean. Of course, we could use the kill warrant scanner on some of these, and let's track down another one. Most of these are hightailing it out of the region, and you can see there, well, we can actually investigate the remote camera mode in this game. Not that we can see much from this view, but I tried to use the remote camera mode to see those enemies disappear, but they've already gone. The white dots you can see are actually frame shift wake scans on the scanner, and if we have a frame shift wake analyzer, we can find out where they went and follow those, but those guys were perhaps bounty hunters, and we blew away one. So for the third time, let's try to get to that Saunders dive in one piece. Let's not forget, 4 seconds to go, let's boost in there. And when it says slow down, if we are aiming correctly, we've come in on a good angle from the planet side, then hopefully eject from that boost and we can materialise somewhere near the entrance. That just saves a little time, and if we are perfect alignment, which I have been known to be on absolutely perfect alignment for these entrance gates, and sometimes if we are on perfect alignment we can just zoom straight in there straight away. But usually we'll have to approach these from the side like this, angle that in there, 50% thrust when we get anywhere near that gate, and then it's very easy from there. At 50% thrust is virtually walking pace compared to the speed we could be doing through here, trying to evade the law, so that's not too bad. And number 18, nice flight run out there, and let's lower that landing gear, slow down to that 25%, angle it in, and let's try again. Let's make a landing, and let's see how much that combat earned us and how much damage we'll have to fork out for. In the munitions bay, we can see that some of those rounds have been used, pelting away at that Python, but not too many out of the maximum that we can hold. 2,190 rounds, and the shield cell banks, we actually used one of those against that Python. We used 1 out of the 5 because we have the B grade. Of course we get 5 cells, and with the rest you only get 4. And let's walk into the security office and pay in and redeem that voucher, that bounty, and that will give us some money from that Viper. And you may notice other bounties and other claims have actually gone up. If we visit the Federation, we'll be able to claim that bounty. If we visit their lines, look at that, 235,000 bounty in their lines waiting for us. We'll certainly go out and we'll claim that bounty in perhaps the next one or the next Playguide after that. But we'll certainly do that. So let's claim that Federation bounty that you saw, and that's that Viper payment over and done with. Let's check out the commodities market. Let's not forget why we're here after all that. The Wolf Fetch is another narcotic with information over to the right on that. It's very cheap, but you won't be able to pick up very many here. Maybe 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 at the most. And the Wolf Fetch, well, it doesn't really help when there is only a few to be picked up, but that will fetch a decent profit. Let's move on to another system, and we could visit at this point Witchall, and Witchall is another stop off on this trade route. I've been known to pick up 13 tons at Witchall, and it's on the rare trades runs, but I think with the amount that we have on at the moment, I think that we have enough tonnage to risk going straight to what I like to call Hecate, and Hecate is the furthest that we will travel in this playthrough. You may notice in the Galactic playthrough when we tried to get to California Nebula, Hecate was highlighted. We have a mission there, and that will appear on the galaxy map, but we flew very, very far away from Hecate. Well, let's make it, and you may notice if you fly around this area that I've actually made a few discoveries, a few first discoveries in this very area. It is quite close to the colonies, but you'd be surprised in people's rush to get out there to the big finds way out into space. They actually trip over and miss a few undiscovereds in their own sector. So this place that we're flying to now wasn't discovered by me, but there are ones floating around. So let's speed up and let's not go to Witchall, let's fly straight to Hecate. And around this area again you will find brown dwarves and stars which you cannot mine, and I remember flying around here in the Type 6. You'll find stars like this, and unknown there, we haven't even scanned these stars, and I don't think we've even got the basic scanner on board, but we can take a look at those in the local system map, and they will give us some information. And until we scan the system, we might not even find the other bodies within it, and those won't appear on the system map, of course, until we've scanned those. And we don't even have the basic discovery scanner, so let's move on to the next system. In the Hecate system, the RJH 1972 is what we need to find. RJH 1972 is the one that contains those rares, and it is based around a nice water planet, of which we shall fly a little close to and try to get on that planet side. We're not being attacked, which is great. Let's speed in there, and well, it could be either one of these sides or the other, but again, aim for those blue lights. And so let's try to speed our way through. Fast enough to avoid that scan, and we weren't fast enough to make a landing on this docking bay number 11. Sometimes they are right at the entrance, so again I like to fly towards the rear and then turn around, and once I've done so you can then aim for the docking pad centre and then lower yourself around that spot. It's tricky if you don't slow down and you find that thing, but it doesn't take too long to find. And here we have made the landing. Let's check out this port, and here we have the cargo space. Let's check out what we've got already. Illegal there, so unfortunately we've just been scanned. Have we got a fine? Well, no, we haven't. We've not got a fine for carrying illegal goods, which is surprising. Let's just check that out. No fine. Well, we were scanned, but maybe we were travelling too fast not to get a fine, so maybe those things are random. I'm not quite sure, but we didn't get a fine in this case. And checking out that bulletin board, there is lots of charity work going on, and unfortunately this is yet another one of those places which requires us to get on well with them before they'll even give us a mission. This terminal does contain a number of Imperial slaves, but we'll also need to pick up these live Hecate sea worms, and we can pick up a number of those, and I've been on to pick up maybe 11 of those in this particular station. We managed to collect 6, and that's not amazing, but it will do in this case. We won't hang around, and we'll just check our repairs to make sure we're okay for the second leg of our voyage. You'll be glad to know we are on the home straight. Hecate is probably the furthest we'll need to travel, and we can actually sell what we bought from Altair all the way here because it's so far, and Bast is our next general location, and you can see it's on the way back. It's a little closer to Luton Star and Epsilon Indy, which we've still got a mission there, so it's on the way back, but it's not quite there, and we still have some light years to travel. Because we are quite near the entrance, that means we can make a quick getaway, and lining those things up there isn't hard. Let's aim for that green light, make sure we get there in one piece, and then let's thrust away. System is the 7th system that we have visited so far, which contains rares. We've skipped Witchall, and there are a few others dotted around this location that we could have gone to, and we won't visit Banky either. But what we'll do is check out Hart Station, past, and we can see we are friendly, virtually friendly there with most of the inhabitants, so we should find a nice easy flight path all the way there. That is, if we don't overshoot the target, and it's easy to do. Whilst we're looking at those monitors, we can overshoot that target, but sometimes if we are friendly with the system it cuts down the enemies, but because we have a ship full of rares, you never know when the enemies are going to attack, and in this game it's always a surprise. We can get most of the way there, but even if we fly almost to the door of the station, we can never ever guarantee that we'll not be interdicted, and when that happens we'll have to be ready. Let's press our 0% thrust key and submit to that interdiction. Whip out our kill warrant scanner and let's scan that thing. At this point we could use chaff, and that means we don't get any damage whatsoever. Chaff will deflect any lasers in the area, but sometimes those lasers can still be on target. Let's check out this guy. You can see he still has bounty there, so let's blow him up. And he is wanted in the system, and he's wanted in another system, and sometimes a tiny adder like this, you may wonder why it is worth blowing such a small ship up. Sometimes they may run away for a long time, and they may even fly into hyperspace after attacking us, and you may wonder why. But when they return fire here, we'll make a heroic run. Once you spot that heroic run happening, you must preempt that, slow down, turn quickly, and keep firing. If you slow down and turn quickly enough, you should be able to keep that in your sights. If you lose it, then you'll have to make sure that you look at the radar, and that radar unit, that classic elite radar, still comes in handy. It's still the most accurate radar that they could have ever produced, so let's make full use of that. Let's let go of a few cannon rounds. So,
Target destroyed.
you may notice another craft in the area. Let's check out the other craft. Sometimes if we are interdicted by one, others will follow. And so we can see here this craft is wanted. We only need to use our kill warrant scanner once in any location, and that will still be active. So if there is any bounty on another system from this guy, it will actually show up. We don't have to scan this guy all over again, so we can get on with killing him as long as it appears wanted in the bottom left corner. We can seek and destroy, and if it comes up clean, then we'll have to use a scanner, and sometimes we're even fined for doing that in a safe system. But in an anarchy system, you can blow these guys up absolutely no problem.
Target destroyed.
Not only will we get the bounty from the Federation system reward, we'll also gain the galactic one as well, and we never know where to pick that up. Let's check that out. Well, sometimes you can't check that out when you're in the middle of a space warp, but after we've finished warping we can find out which alliance, which allegiance, which faction perhaps will pay us for that kill, and if they are clean, the enemies are usually wanted in another system. Perhaps 90% of the enemies will appear clean, but on further inspection they'll be wanted. So let's just speed that footage up. Let's enter the Heart Station in Bast, and let's just speed up through the entrance. You can see it's great with the advertising boards, but you can also see on this hub the forest on the arch wheel, and the wheel is full of life. It's great to see that. In some stations we will see life, and they are developing stations with life walking around those, and trees and all kinds of things. So imagining the future of this game is unbelievable. There is so much that they could still do, and there's so much that they've done already. Let's line up this base. We are friendly. We are heading towards Arcade. Let's slow that thing down and take it easy to avoid any damage. let's restock all our ammo, and that fuel doesn't really need to be reloaded because that's over halfway full, but we'll do that anyway because fuel is so cheap. By examining the final contacts we can examine the claims, and we appear to have extra claims in another part of that galaxy. We also have the vouchers to claim in this part of the galaxy, known as the Federation. Let's claim those in, let's redeem those vouchers. And now we can check out the cargo, and some parts of the system, certain things will be illicit and some won't. But in this system we are still looking for those rares. In this case it's Bass Snake Gin, and we can pick up 10 of those. So let's check out that cargo. You can see the wolf fetch is illegal, but the rest aren't, and well, we virtually have a full ship, but not quite yet. That's all we really need to do in this station, and to save time, let's check out the repairs. Nothing needs to be done. Let's just skip on to the next one. And the next one used to be one of my favourite stations because as a novice it's very quick to go to the station and fly there from Altair and the core federal systems. And this is called Aegean, as far as I know. Aegean as in the Aegean Sea, perhaps, not quite sure. And so this station is quite easy to get to for most craft. Even the small craft can hop along a few systems and get to Aegean. So let's make our way there and absolutely thrust, you can see, out of those doors and aim ourselves towards that target. And you'll be surprised what you find in this game. The mysterious galaxy and the universe has amazing colours, and you can see this incredible white dwarf has amazing blue colour tint, which even tints our own ship an amazing blue colour. And the eye-popping visuals of the universe, hopefully reenacted and represented in this game. And moving on to the next one, it's another white dwarf, so the programmers have certainly gone to town on all those different giant bodies out there, giving them slightly different shades. You can see this one has got a green tint. And so let's move on. We are now on our way to Schweikart station. We are friendly, as you can see, and Schweikart in Aegean is the place where you need to go. It's not very near, it's certainly not the nearest one, but that's the place with the rares. So whilst we are touring on this part of the galaxy, let's just enjoy external mode, and let's see if we can check out our ship. You can see by using the flight controls we can actually use that to navigate around the ship, and if we are flying near a sun or a star, or if we turn on the ship lights, we can then see our ship just that little bit better. And this ship, you can see, is flying towards the centre of the galaxy, those central stars. That means we have a background so we can see what we are doing. It's great to see the light effects on those things, and just like Frontier Elite 2, we can tour around our ship and check out our ship from virtually any angle. So we have now done that. We can do that and spend time admiring that on the way to any destination. We can also check out the traffic around. We can even check out our own vicinity. If we press the middle mouse button, that will detach our view and we can look around, and that is particularly helpful when you are observing the left monitor. Again, when we were travelling and discovering things in the exploration, sometimes those pesky belt clusters, you can actually see those, but if you press the middle mouse button you can actually see belt clusters and planetoids quite clearly. And so you don't have to scan those belt clusters, you can see those clearly enough. We can also have fun scanning the traffic, and as long as we have a frame shift interdictor, then we can actually pull someone out of space. So let's do that right now. Let's pull out our frame shift interdictor, and we can press the F1 key and the F2 key. I've set that up so that we can toggle through our weaponry, and as soon as we toggle through that weaponry it will appear, you can see on there, and the kill warrant scanner is on the opposite button. All we need now is a target. So if you look at the info box, as soon as the target appears there it is, we can then scan that, and it appears to be a Sidewinder. It is friendly, and it is green, that gives away it is friendly, but let's keep pressing those targets. Let's cycle through the ships in the system. Surely out of all these ships, one of those will be wanted. And it's not this one, it's not that one, it's another adder. Let's try it again, and here we go, this adder is wanted. So all we need to do is to make sure that we have the frame shift interdictor there selected, and when we are close enough behind our target we can then press the interdiction button, and we'll enter the interdiction subgame, which is identical to the interdiction evasion subgame. We'll have to line that target up, and as long as we can align that thing, we'll then break it out of hyperspace on a super cruise. But unfortunately we'll need to get very close because our interdiction device is only very small and very weedy. We'll have to get right behind that, and whilst we are trying to do that, it is always possible to get interdicted ourselves. It's a Sidewinder, and that thing is wanted. It won't take much to knock that thing out, but of course I'm operating the kill warrant scanner to gain all those extra free credits. I won't be able to claim those straight away, and you can see that takes no effort whatsoever.
Target destroyed.
So let's just run in, grab what we need, and then leave this station and head on to virtually the penultimate station on this tour. We have quite a few rare items now in our inventory, in our cargo hold, and a few more won't do those any harm. You can see this station also sells some animal meats and some fruit and veg, but what I'm actually interested in is the ale, in this case the Chateau of Aegean. Having that in tow, let's set off to our next location, and in this case it's Mekikos, and this is the penultimate station that we'll be visiting. Mekikos is quite close, in fact it's easy to find if you get to Aegean. And because it is quite close, it won't take us that long to get there. Brandstein Port is where we're aiming for in Mekikos, and you can see if we get close to the back of this wanted, we can then use our frameshift interdictor, and our frameshift drive interdictor, once it gets close enough, it will say go to the rear of that craft, approach from the rear, and if you hold down that mouse button it will click and you will enter a sequence like this. All I have to do is to keep the target in my sights and keep it there, and once our blue zone is all the way up to the top, we then pull that guy out of hyperspace.
Hull integrity compromised.
Unfortunately, pulling off these risky maneuvers at high speed in the depths of space means our craft sometimes can perform some wild maneuvers on ejection from that high speed mode and incur some damage doing that, but have to be travelling very quickly to incur lots of damage. Let's check this guy out. It's a lowly sidewinder, so we won't get much. And 2 grand there, not much, but let's check this guy out. Again, travelling from place to place can be interesting if you observe the traffic and get easy credits just like that.
Target destroyed. Landing gear deployed.
Sometimes, despite our best intentions, we approach too quickly, and then the velocity carries us on. We certainly have that velocity, and the impact speed will detriment our shields, but that won't usually touch our hull integrity. So that's perfectly fine. Sometimes we get a fine for doing that, of course, which is not fine, but we can make our way slowly back to where we should be eventually and reorientate ourselves, making sure that we are facing the right way, of course, because if we're not facing the right way we won't be able to land. And I have a funny feeling, yes, by illuminating those things we have actually inadvertently landed the wrong way up. So let's turn around the easy way by dipping our nose, travelling back, finding that right spot and making an absolute meal of the landing sequence. Mechikos is the final system before we end our run, and high tea, it's another drug which makes us high as opposed to normal tea which does not make us high. So high tea is of high value, and that's why there's only 11 available, and we have to leave 1 behind because our ship is now full. You can see we can gain 12,000 per ton, 9,000 per ton. We can check out how much these things are worth, and then we can compare those when we get to our destination if we've then improved our profit just by flying to another destination. And we can't sell the Mechikos high tea for any profit, of course, because that's where we are at the moment. We'll have to fly maybe 200 light years from where we pick those things up to pick up the best profit. And let's fly now to our final Mulhara system, and Mulhara is far enough out in the middle of nowhere that it's actually the place to go to sell most goods at top price. Finally, we arrive at Platt Ring, our final destination on this long hike space trucking through the galaxy. We have been doing a lot of space trucking so far, and you can see close to where we are, Carrie has been already explored by Lucoser, and the Lucoser channel of course covers Playguides just like this to Elite Dangerous. Check those out. And I actually recorded this the day after Lucoser posted that he just found that on his own channel, so I only missed that guy by days or hours perhaps. But ignoring Carrie, there it is. It's the cherry on the cake for that guy, but not for me. Let's head for the Platt Ring. And the Platt Ring, I can't wait to offload all these goods, because of course while we have all these goods, these rares, we are twice as likely, or many times more likely, to get stopped. And we are friendly, but we are virtually neutral with the system, and so we don't have anything that can protect us in the system, so if we get stopped and get blown up at this point, it will be a shame. So let's scan through that system and we can see on the radar who's doing what, and we can check out those guys in detail on the left hand panel in the contacts. We can even contact those guys and send those guys messages, and we can check out their subsystems if we have a kill warrant scanner or if we are close to those. Their subsystems, of course, are the systems contained within the ship, and so let's keep an eye on those as we make our final approach to quite a lengthy journey on the Plat Ring. But the Anarchy system will make sure that none of the illegals that we have on board are actually illegal, and because this is an outpost, we won't get any presence from the law and we won't get stopped, and we can't even get blown up by lasers protecting that station because there simply aren't any. And we are in an ASP, so we can visit outposts, so we can dump our cargo, i.e. the wolf fetch and all these other amazing narcotics that we've managed to collect, the high tea, and sell those for maximum profit. You can see the slaves are illegal and the toxic waste is legal, and narcotics aren't, and that's great. You can see in the other terminal that narcotics and even combat stabilizers are illegal. Slaves, imperial slaves, so we wouldn't be able to sell half of our cargo there. So it's important to select the right station and get the right cargo to the right place. It's always worth remembering that we are vulnerable as soon as we slow. Next video we'll take a look at combat, and this is a nice precursor to combat, the scanning and the destroying of small ships and lining those up to get blown up. You can see this one has 13.9k waiting to be scooped up. Let's collect that, and this guy's wanted anyway. Let's get a little bit closer so that we can inflict maximum damage and maximum impact without wasting too much time. Too many bullets. Even with our class 2 weapons, you can see it doesn't take much time to get rid of these guys. Nice profit. Thank you very much. That's 14 grand. And so again, we can't stop earning money in this game. As long as we stop and take those guys down, we just cannot stop earning those extra credits. And you can see our cargo scoop. Sometimes when they explode you can pick up whatever they drop, but unfortunately in this case our cargo bay is full, so let's switch off that cargo hatch and continue finally to our final destination. Thing that you may take for granted is the majestic nature of the universe we live in, and even though these lines are fake, presented on the heads-up display of our craft, these orbit lines are taken from our Navicom and printed on this screen, and they can be turned off. Of course, you don't need to have those orbit lines on, and those aren't really essential to the game either, except for when we are approaching from the planet's side. Sometimes those orbit lines, if you leave those in the middle of the screen and they flatten out, sometimes we are in the right vicinity to approach those. But the Plat Ring is actually an Anarchy system, it's an outpost, and so we don't really need to approach from the planet side. In fact, we don't need to approach from any side. Even approaching from underneath that station. It's completely reasonable because we never know where the landing bay is going to be. And the station is relatively in darkness because it appears to be nowhere near a sun or any kind of light source. Luckily our cage will light up so we can steam on in. And it's a great feeling hearing that music and hearing the fact that we've made it to our final destination. The large cash reward is not far away. In fact, only a few meters to go now. So no point rushing this. And once we lower our landing gear, you'll find we are incredibly slow, particularly around these outposts. So I'm actually flying 50%, 75%, maybe even 100% thrust just to get there. And of course that opens the door to overshooting the thing in the first place. So we're either travelling too fast or too slow. That seems to be the right direction. Let's land. Let's get that money. That's the two wanteds that we took down, and that's easy money because they took milliseconds to destroy. And if you have class 3 or class 4 weapons, those really do disappear quickly, even though there are no 20 megawatt beam lasers available yet in this game. What is on offer is very, very hostile to those enemies. Let's waste no more time. Let's get into the commodities market. We can sell our Altair skin for 15.9 thousand credits per ton, and so all those tons will pile up. Our fusion tea, another narcotic probably, for a great profit. Let's get rid of the Hecate live sea worms for 16.2 thousand credits per ton. And the Mechikos high tea, well, that's a bit too close, we won't get much for that. We'll have to travel 200 light years away, don't forget. 15k for the Bast Snake Gin, that's great. The Chateau, unfortunately, again is too close. The Geras beer, well, there's some profit for that, that will do greatly. The Indie Bourbon, of course, that's very far away, we'll get 16,000 per ton. And we'll fetch another narcotic. Let's see how much we can get for that. We can't buy it, but we can sell it for 14.8 per ton, and that puts us up there to 3.32 million. So all we need to do is to take this and this back to Altair, and that should give us some more money. It won't be over 200 light years from Aegean and from Mechikos, but we will get the rest of that cash, putting us up there to somewhere near 4 million, or maybe 3.8. So that will be in the next part of this guide. All we need to do now is to fly back to Altair. So I'll meet you there.